Naturally with Spirit of Matter, broadcasting to you from the Israel, nuclear plantations, southern Israel, uh, growing garlic. We have growth within war. This is a Saturn day and the hour of the sun. Jupiter is ruling the ascendant with the sun in the 11th house in Libra, 27 degrees Libra, and she's exactly opposing Pluto. So, can we honor the sun and honor Pluto with the midheaven ruled by Mercury in 14 degrees Virgo, and Mercury still in Libra in the 28 degrees, separating from the square to Pluto. So, just a little bit of honoring. Saturn is in the 4th house in Pisces, Jupiter in the 6th house of health, 12 degrees Taurus, it's the ruler of the ascendant. So honoring for Saturn, which also rules Pluto and is found in Jupiter's sign. Saturn is ruling dedication and rest. Is ruling doing something in a way that actually yields. It's ruling agriculture. And Saturn is ruling the path that is what people call karma. Is the action that accumulates into something that we build and is actually carrying fruits that last even through the generations. It's the ruler of time. So in these times where Pluto is in Saturn's sign, Pluto is composting and changing from the core and exposing and transforming both our realization of agriculture, things that we have been doing that we need to change, like growing things in a permaculture and nourishing the soil and letting go of genetically modified food and pesticides, even those that are concentrated natural pesticides, and learning to do things perhaps with the order of the moon, with blessing our soil and letting go of a lot of notions of hard work. And for this Saturn honoring, I have a story to tell you about my grandfather from my mama's side. So my grandfather from my mama's side, he was I believe born and raised in Sarny, which is next to Kiev, Ukraine. And during the Second World War, there was a lot of occupation. So one time it was occupied by Poland, one time by Austro-Hungary, one time by Russia, and eventually they were taken to Poland, to concentration camps, I believe. Probably it was Warsaw. So he looked Irish. Okay, had Ukrainian features, Ukrainian Jew. And because he looked Irish, he would go out of the camp to bring food and into the camp. He would be able to escape. He was young and then in the war. One day there was rebellion and the gates of the concentration camp were opened and he escaped, and they were shooting at people and he escaped. And through the forests in Italy, he went on a ship and they got to Israel. And they lived in a city called Ramat Gan. And he later opened, he was employee, and then he later opened a grocery store. Okay, and so there was a lady that was hiding him in the forest. So what saved my grandfather? First of all, yes, his appearance. He would not be seen as minority, so this was his face, basically his appearance, but also his willingness to go in and out of the ghetto and bring in food, so his courage and loyalty to his family. The forests, the existence of forests, his ability to walk out. Okay, when the gate was open, if the door is open, you step out and you walk out. You walk out of the ghetto. And the forests, the existence of forests. And when he came to Israel, he was, of course, after traumas of war, then he would open a grocery store. And what do you do in a grocery store? You sit. Sometimes people come to buy. It was not busy like, today we have these huge lines of people. Yes, mainly you sit in the store and maybe you drink soda and eat some kindness and sell, and whoever comes to buy, okay, they buy from you the groceries, but you know that you are always around food. Okay, you are always around food. And so he kept the store for many years until he became older. Then he rented the place to another person, then eventually sold it. And so it was not hard work that saved my grandfather. Because what he would do during the day, he would go out of the camp to bring food, okay, to gather food, maybe from forest, maybe stealing, I don't know, and into the ghetto. He was around food. And because he was around food, which is also agriculture, fruits, vegetables, he was around a situation where he wasn't working, hard working like the rest of them people, because he would need to go out and in. So it wasn't hard work. He didn't have to do hard work. It was not about hard work. Okay? Yes, surviving in the forest is very difficult. He had typhus, and some lady helped him to recover. So yes, this is survival. It's not to underestimate. But when eventually he opened the grocery store, he was mainly sitting in the grocery store, minding his business, maybe praying or going to the synagogue, which was fascinating for me because as grandchild, because even the times where I was atheistic, I could not say, oh, because of the Holocaust, I don't believe in God, because my grandfather survived the Holocaust and he prayed every day. He was not Orthodox, but he read Psalm. And it was actually not working hard that saved him, but being around food, the things that grow, agriculture, every time, and being in a place where he can rest and not just work all day, that kept him sane. Okay? And so, by the way, a little story about me and my grandfather. When we would come to our grandparents, I'm a person of the word. Okay, so is my mother. And ever since I was a child, I liked to paint and sometimes to write, and I would steal pens. I wasn't aware that I was even doing this, because I would look for a pen and I would look for paper and I would always draw something and do something. And then I don't know what I would lose things, so I don't know what happened with the pen, and so I wanted another pen and another pen. So I don't remember consciously like trying to like have a stack of pens, but eventually I was finishing all of his pens, so he got annoyed by that, by this little girl that finished all. Eventually, my mother would become an author, and I would edit her book. And I'm a person of the word. You see the spoken word as well as the written word, and paintings and drawings and yeah. So this is the memories from my grandfather. And so what I want to tell to you with this story: this person survived a Holocaust not by working hard, but by easy work, and by being next to food, and by contributing to supplying food, to give food to people. Okay, he would go out of the camp and into the camp. Well, maybe he would have to steal food. Maybe he would pick up fruits and veggies from like nearby forests. Maybe both. And so this helped him basically stay alive. Because if he would stay in the camp and not be able to walk out, and use his privilege as not looking suspicious, then he would probably die from the hard work. Okay, Arbeit macht nicht frei. But because he did something of value and brought food, and he used his privilege that he had because he looked Irish, he used his privilege to bring food to the people, and eventually escaped. And eventually, when he had the business, then it was natural to open a grocery store, fruits and vegetable store. This is what it was. It was a fruits and vegetable store. And that's how my family sustained. Okay, my grandmother was a chocolate factory, a chocolatier, basically. So she was indispensable in her job, and he worked in providing fruits and veggies. So basically, they were doing stuff with food. But unlike my grandmother, who lost her 2 feet at work, and she was working around, a lot of sugar And even though she loved her job, she was constantly on her feet, but it was difficult for her. So her karma of work was less healthy. For my grandfather, he could sit, okay, and he also took care of his health. He ate healthy, but it was actually not working hard that sustained him. He died when he was 90 something. He died at the same year Yitzhak Rabin died, and they were around the same age. So it's 91 or something like this. And hospital, and that's it. He died at old age. Unlike my grandmother, who had her legs amputated, and even then my mother had to fight for her because doctors said, oh, she has no time, she has no this. And even one time I remember my mother saying to a doctor, if we would listen to you, then she would grow a 10 feet tree on her grave by now, and my grandmother was still alive by then. So she had a very good karma with her daughter because the daughter loved her, my mother, very much. And so this story reveals what is the actual truth, because we think about Saturn as hard work, working many hours, strife, poverty, okay? But Saturn is also ruling agriculture, if you are correct. And this is something I remember my mama telling me, because when I was a child, I found it difficult to I have Saturn retrograde, so structure would always have to be innovated for me. It's not the usual structure. I don't work with the usual structures. They don't work for me, and I become sick in them. But we didn't know this, so my mother said to me, stop working so hard. You do work so hard, it is lazy. And she was correct. I was working so hard because I didn't have the ability to take the time and to think what would be the correct form of work. I'm still dealing with that. And so I would become sick, okay? So Saturn is not about hard work. It's about being efficient. It's working with dedication and creating your own framework or your own structure for yourself. And astrology can do this. And Saturn rules agriculture. And so the way we've been doing agriculture is also difficult. Recently I saw a documentary about a person, I think he was in Europe, and he was traveling an aircraft with his geese, okay? And because he saw that the geese don't fly in the sky so much as they used to, and so he was flying with them as one of the pack and taking them on a journey. And while he was flying, he saw that the meadows made it impossible for geese to land, because the way we've been growing our agriculture made it less possible for geese to have landing spots that are safe for them. So he was becoming aware of why don't the geese fly. And when you think about doing more permaculture, growing forests, and allowing nature to be, then this can retrieve our immune system health and also the ecosystem, more birds in the sky. And you know, when we look at birds in the sky, we know if there is disaster, if there is going to be something, if they are, which direction are they going? They're going in the direction of a fair weather, lots of food and fresh water. So if we follow the birds, if we follow the animals, so we want animals around us always. Even when we have pets, then the pet would know which place in the house is safest. They would sense if there's about to be an earthquake. They would hide erstmals, okay, they would sense something before we do sense it. So now when we have Pluto in the sign of Capricorn, we are transforming structures and we're finding out the truth. In times of a Holocaust, a world war, what will make you survive? Is it working hard? Or is it actually whenever you can or wherever you can, bring food to people, being around food and bring food to people? Is it bringing food to people through a fund or an NGO? Or is it about going around and picking fruits or picking vegetables? Growing something. Okay, even now I grow this garlic. And you grow this garlic is not just the physical food, it's also your health. Okay, so every plant has its energy, has its wisdom. And you become like shaman with the plants, or surrounding yourself with foods, with fruits and vegetables. Is it working hard, or is it being in a business where you can just sit and people, if they don't buy, you're still surrounded with food. And if it is your shop that you bought the place, then it's even better. So people survived world wars and Holocaust not by working hard, but by a lot of rest combined with doing the right things at the right time with the right people in whichever way they had. Okay, my grandfather was looking Irish, so he had a great privilege that he can go in and out of the camp. Everybody has their own privilege. It's not the hustle that will save you. And when I was looking at business models, when I just began with this YouTube, and I thought, okay, maybe I can do business, digital business. I was looking at a woman, I don't remember her name, and she was on the 30 under 30 of Forbes. And she had later a crisis. And she was giving people business models. And one day she, at less than 30, got a heart attack. She didn't even know what it was. It was stress. Then she got to hospital. Then she had a heart attack. Why? Because she was working so hard. She wasn't in a world war. She wasn't in a Holocaust. She was raised on hustle. And she had a heart attack. At less than 30. And you can imagine she was an entrepreneur. It wasn't she was eating unhealthy. She was aware of good skills and regime and everything. But she had a heart attack. And my grandfather survived the Holocaust and the wars that were in Israel, also the Yom Kippur War. He was in Israel, also the Gulf War. There were missiles cracking the windows, and a couple of houses in the entire street went poof. They were completely destroyed, just 2 streets from where they lived. And he died at 91 from old age. Survived the Holocaust. Why? Because he didn't work all that hard. He did what he needed to do, and that's it. And also he was spiritual. Okay, he read Psalm every day. For him, it was Psalm. He lost all of his family but his brother. His brother got Shilumim because he escaped through Germany. He escaped through Italy, did not get any money from the German government or the Israeli government. Okay, all by himself. And it wasn't hard work that did this. It was with the wisdom of agriculture and with the wisdom of being around where there is food. If you're around where there is food and providing food. And providing food not in an NGO or a fund, but in a business. Even if there are not many buyers, you still have food. Okay, this was the wisdom of my grandfather, so that there will always be food around, so people will not starve. That's what he brings to the world. And my grandmama that worked in a chocolate factory, and through her work, basically they got the apartment because they got a better mortgage. She worked in a factory, you worked in one place your whole life, and she was indispensable. And she was a very good cook, but also made very good chocolate. And she worked for years and years on her feet. And even though she liked her job a lot, she was working on her feet in the factory. And even though we got better rates for mortgage so they could buy a house, but her feet eventually were amputated and she died of diabetes. So, yes, there's value in what she did, but she had very good karma with her daughter, because the daughter took care of her when nobody was competent enough, even the people that they brought from the welfare. Some of them were even dangerous. So her daughter took care of her. So that was one story of the stories of time. Because if you work like my grandfather on your feet all day, not going to work. Okay, small businesses around food. How do you get food outside of NGOs? How do you grow food? Okay, how you are around food. Even if all you can do is what I did, to put the garlic in the water and wait for the garlic to grow stems, is more ideas are growing as well. You're growing with your food. Okay, and I talked about this also when I talked about people who went through tremendous violence, and some of them, when they were growing plants and growing foods, they began to grow with the plants and they experienced miracles in their healing. You know, a person who experienced miracles, they went through incest, some of the worst things. And when I was going through my Me Too veteranship, I remember we talked, they still didn't understand that they were going through something. I realized they were not imagining. And then they started to grow food. They started to growing their own food. And now they travel to India. And yeah, it doesn't absolve you of life's difficulties, but a lot of help. And it's by these people that I was beginning to be inspired to grow, not only for my food from feeding myself, but also to tend to things and to be to experience healing. And indeed it is very, very helpful. So growing food. This is honoring of Saturn and of Pluto that is ruled by this Saturn. Okay, Pluto is composting things, exposing things. How will you survive a Holocaust? It's not by working hard. It's not by working in the working camp. It's not by pinching your cheeks so that you are hired. It is by looking for the agriculture, by looking for food, by working, by dedication and by rest, so that you can get connection. The more rest you can get in such situations, the more you are likely to survive. It's not hustle. It's not hard work. Hard work and hustle, they can kill a person even though they are healthy, white American, from a privileged family. Just because they wanted to do entrepreneurship, they got a heart attack. They were in 30, under 30, and they got a heart attack. Okay? Pluto is exposing those things. It's changing our notion of time, of karma, and of what we think is medicine, is healthy. A walk in the forest is very likely to be more healthy than most of the medications over the counter and not over the counter that you will be prescribed. For many reasons. And the ruler of the hour is Sun. If it's still the ruler of the hour. Yes, it is. So, Sun, it rules leadership. It also rules health and the heart. About the heart attack and how to avoid it, avoid stress. Okay. Saturn is not the stress in as much as it is agriculture. But if we put Saturn on stress, then of course we will have heart attack. Sun, being exposed to the sun, but also sun is a part of eclipses. And this is a good time to honor the spirit of eclipses. If you've seen, the astrology podcast has posted the importance of eclipses in pivotal events in human history, and haven't begun to watch the episode yet. Should be very interesting, and probably a must watch if you don't know eclipses. But I want to tackle eclipses from a different point of view. I want to talk about occult. When you are doing magic, astrological magic, then usually you're being told, and rightfully so, don't do magic around eclipses. For example, if you are doing even a gold talisman, okay, a gold Medusa Gorgon, Beta Persei, that is protected from any type of unethical use of energy sent towards you or action, okay? Protector of your sexual well-being, your sensual well-being, or protected from the rape and murder, protected from psychic attack, protecting your voice when you speak up, when you walk out of violence. Okay, it's very important protector. This algal shielding and protecting against not dark, but magic that is used to hurt you. Algol is 2 planets that have 3 phases. One of these phases is eclipse. So when you make Algol talisman, you don't do it on an eclipse, because the eclipse is energy that is considered too difficult to mess with. It's energy that is too chaotic, that is already causing some fated events. And the result of trying to manifest with an eclipse is excess of chaos in your life. Okay? It's like maybe it will happen, but there will be a lot of complications and a lot of chaos, because eclipses are chaotic event, a sudden change of events that was usually not expected. A king dies, changes the perception. Okay, fated events. Doesn't mean good or bad, but because they are sudden and because they are fated, there's not much we can do about them, then it's usually advised not to manifest with eclipses. But when we are talking about a mundane situation where some people benefit from chaos, if you know the Masonic notion, order out of chaos, okay, it's not just Masonic, but Masons used it, order out of chaos, or the birthing of the world. Okay, there is chaos, there is something that's blended, and then out of it there is a birthing of something that starts to, a cell starts to multiply, starts to divide and multiply, or the earth, suddenly there is skies and there is earth, there is the night luminary and the day luminary. And a story of birthing is basically the order out of chaos. So when we talk about birthing of the world, the Thema Mundi chart or similar events to the Thema Mundi chart was used as the birthing of the world. There's some recent occult magic to do with this, as the work of Caitlin Kapok, that recreated this Thema Mundi. And what she may or may not have expected is that the sphere that she saw in some stadium would use Bono to sing about the Nova party, nature party of people that died in the 7th of October. That's probably one of the things she less predicted. That would happen as a part of messing with the Thema Mundi. Okay? You have good things, you have strange things, you have things that you don't know if they are good or bad, and there is a birthing of the world and this order out of chaos. And so, if you are a type of occultist, or if you are working on a mundane level, and let's say you want to create chaos, your desires to create chaos. I'm not talking about chaos magic, okay? Not talking about chaos magic. It literally means that you adopt a certain dogma of looking at the world, and you take from the occult and esoteric practice of this dogma, okay? Dr. Angela Puka discusses chaos magic. She explains it way better than me. If you want to know what chaos magic is, there's the channel of Dr. Angela Puka, and she's a researcher, is a PhD in looking at occult practices, various occult practices from an academic perspective. I'm not talking about chaos magic. Chaos magic simply means it's kind of like a possibilianism, but with occult. Okay, it simply means if there is a Sufi Muslim that has a talisman, and I have to read a petition that says God is one, God is Allah, Al-Rahman, Al-Rahim, and so on and so on. So I will adopt this belief to various degrees, whether I'm atheist or not atheist, or think of it as archetypes, or many ways to do it. And I will read this petition with sincere intention for this deity called Allah, and receive the bestowing of magic. And then the other day I can call on Jesus Christ, and then or whichever saint, And then the other day I can go to a Buddhist monastery and have their own ritual and call on Lord Ganesha and so on and so forth. It's just like possibilianism, but with praxis of occult. And you don't have to necessarily be materialistic or dogmatic materialistic to do it. Some of the people, it helps them if they are atheistic and they want to access esoterics, so they do it with chaos magic, but it doesn't necessarily. You can do it from a genuine possibilianist perspective. And this is not what I'm talking about. Okay? It's not the type of diversion I'm talking about. What I'm talking about in manifesting chaos or in increase of chaos is creation of a certain fog out of which you have the time to birth something. For example, when a baby is born, it's in the womb for the first few weeks. You don't see a baby there. If you are not the person who is pregnant with this baby, and some women even pregnant did not feel that they are pregnant, but if you're not the person who is pregnant with this baby, you don't see anything and you don't sense energy, you don't see that there is a baby there. Only after a couple of months there is a baby bump. And then eventually, all is well, the baby is born into life. Okay? So there is this secrecy, or if you plant something, it roots first. Okay, this garlic, when you see it in the water, then you can see. It took a couple of days for it to root until it developed a stem. So it roots first. So if you plant something in the soil and you don't see it, it's rooting first, and only then it takes out the stem. Okay, there's a process of growth that is hidden, that is invisible. Pluto and Saturn sign deals a lot with this process of growth that is invisible. It's the rooting process. And now let's say when you plant something, okay? Let's say you plant potatoes or garlic. And other things you do when you plant them, you put mulch. Okay? What is mulch? Mulch is a sort of a cow's. It's dead leaves of all types of stuff that you scatter around, and it looks like it's a pack of, junkyard. Now, this mulch is both protecting, it's saving humidity inside the soil. So when you water it, there's a barrier of cows that allows for the inner growth. And also, if this is your plot of land, until you grow stems, it doesn't look like you're growing anything much. It looks like, well, there's just leaves falling. It's protected. So cows, okay, the benefit of cows is that it protects that inner growth until something roots deep enough so it can grow a stem, so it can come out to the world. And it's rooted deep enough in the soil that if you try to pull it, you already have to invest a lot of energy to unroot it. Same with birth, same with babies. So let's say you want to birth a project. Manifesting cows is helping you to root down that which you want to give birth to. This is that's what it is. Okay, it's not good, it's not bad. You can use cows to grow a baby. You can use cows to spread some mulch so that your garlic will grow or your potatoes will grow resilient, strong, and having humidity and good conditions. Another way you can use cows is, on a mundane level, is to spread conflict around people. And I talked about Eris as the goddess of discordia, where she throws the Trojan War, and she's throwing cows, and she's kind of like enjoying these cows. But out of these cows, a new world is birthing. A lot of people are going to deal with post-trauma. Now everybody is going to be a refugee. Now a lot of people will have to think about housing solution that's independent of the government. more people will receive those poisoned supposed food or blankets or this or that. So they will know that the indigenous people were not lying. Okay, a lot of people are going to be enlightened as to what the reality of those which are marginalized in society see. So for Aries, it's like it's cows, it's throwing cows. And on a mundane level, when you are manifesting with eclipses or manifesting chaos with eclipses, it gives you the leeway to root certain new order. This in itself is not good or bad. This is the practice that you would use to grow food that would save people at the concentration camp and save your life and make you die of old age after you have lived a life. Or it can be used to birth other things. And I want to tell you about the cuckoo. The cuckoo is a bird. And the cuckoo is basically not growing its own eggs, its own little children birds. What it does, it plants, it basically puts its egg in a nest of other types of birds. And it has a masquerade. So some cuckoos would have blue eggs, some would have spotted eggs, and then it is according to the birds that they are pretending to be a part of. So they would put their eggs inside this nest of these birds. And so they would take one egg from, sometimes they would take one egg from the original nest and put their egg instead. And then the birds, if it's successful, the birds are unsuspecting and they're growing a cuckoo inside their own nest. Okay, this is the cuckoo. And this is the story of birthing of the cuckoo. So what the cuckoo is doing is creating masquerade and birthing an egg. So somebody else will take care of its babies while it can go hunt for food, and it has more freedom. Somebody else grows their child for them. If it is successful, because sometimes these babies are being discovered and they're taken out of the egg. And sometimes there was even a bird eating a cuckoo egg as protein because it was discovered. So the cuckoo is not always successful. Just like the cuckoo, there can be certain people or societies that lay their eggs in such way that they throw chaos. So they lay their eggs, and so this chaos allows people to not pay attention and to grow these things that they are growing. And sometimes it's nourishing things, and sometimes it's not nourishing things. Let's say you have an idea, and this idea is that all of the cities will have surveillance, so you would know what every citizen is doing at every single moment, and the citizens won't be walking around a lot. We say, how do I convince people to go to concentration camps? They wouldn't want to do it. But what if you market this idea and you tell these people, you won't have to go more than 15 minutes between your grocery store and your barber shop and your gym and your pool and walking the doggy. You're going to have a 50-minute city. Now they want it. And you have to use a card to get into your own house, which could be surveilled because it's a smart house. Now they want it. I've been in a project of 15-minute city in Tel Aviv. And there were just constructions. All I wanted to do was to climb up from one street, and it was looking good, okay? It was not looking like concentration camp. To climb up from one street, to cross the street, and to go to the other street in the park. There was park there, but there were constructions. And I said to myself, it's closed. It was closed. I couldn't do it. And I said to myself, if a person is walking their doggy, they didn't leave any entrance for them to go through the park in the 15-minute city. But then I also realized something. If you think about people that are very, very rich, the wealth of society, or celebrities, they always have security around them. So they have to call, if you want to go to the bathroom, you have to let your security know so that they will escort you to the bathroom and the back. So, and this is why they hire islands, or they buy a whole real estate for security reasons. And so how will you communicate the person who conceived the 15-minute city the freedom of movement, which is good for their nervous system? Now, what else do we know about people like Beyonce? When she is performing, you see in her shoes, they're all pointed, okay? It's not healthy for your toes to spread. Now, your toes, they connect with your neck, with your ears, with your shoulders, with your eyes, with your thyroid. Okay, you can get very sick by doing this. If you work hours and hours like this, and you practice on high heels, it has destructive ability. Your ability to see the world, to sense the world, no matter how much money you have, is biased. And so, let's say you are this biased and you think this 15-minute city is somehow a good idea. And if you always have to let know your security, then you don't mind people being surveilled. It's like you have to let your security guard know about everything, so you hardly get privacy, and you don't see it a big deal when other people are being constantly surveilled, and you can use them for your benefit. And sometimes you are seeing yourself as a messenger of something, so you see yourself as a vessel. What did Beyonce say when she said she made a movie about the Renaissance? And she said, I wake up in the morning at 11 or something like this. I eat nothing much, granola with some fruits. And I go to watch a museum. And then comes the evening, I do my job. Okay, this keeps her sane. It's the simplification of things that keeps her sane. I'm just going to do my job. You can rest assured that many people that hold key positions in society, even occult society, they just think of it as I'm doing my job. What other way can you think about? You're going to see 250,000 people in one night, make $250 million in one night, feed thousands of people in one night. How can you think about it other than I just go to do my job? You won't survive if you think otherwise. And so those supposed villains from up there are just now right here. Bridging of the gaps. Honoring of the sun, the people who make history eventually, but the internal experience for many of them is, I just go to do my job. I'm a vessel. You know this, I'm a vessel. A vessel to what? We don't know. And so in occult magic, you would use eclipses when you want to manifest chaos. Okay, let's say you want to build a 15-minute city. You would not use eclipses to say, I'm going to manifest the ritual of the 15-minute city in the eclipse. No, but what you will do is, I want to create chaos. I'm going to use this eclipse to create chaos. And through this chaos, there is a birthing of something. And now I want you to pay attention to an election. And for October 2023, in between eclipses, if I'm not mistaken, even 17th of October, there was election. And by the way, Uranus has left the 22nd degree of Taurus. We have a break from the 22nd degree of Taurus. Woo! And in between these eclipses, there is a special election. And in this election, the WHO, the World Health Organization, is receiving a mandate that allows it to take over and make political decisions and declare emergency in all the world. This is an election. Now let's say you wanted to do this, okay? So you put the election in between eclipses. You have chaos before and chaos after. World conflict, atom going off or not going off, political conflict, anti-Semitism, anti-this, anti-that, blah, 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 blah. Here in Ukraine, oh, but there is Israel, and oh, there's India, and look what's happening in the United States, and so on and so forth. Everybody's going, whoa, 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 what is happening in the news? Da, 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 da. In the meantime, in between these chaoses, which you use the eclipses to increase the chaos, in between that, you plant cameras, you seal cities, you besiege large areas. Okay, that's what's happened in Maui. And so the eclipses are used to manifest the chaos, and the elections between the eclipses are used to create what we want to plant there. And now this can be a field of potatoes and garlics and tomatoes and peppers, and this could be a 15-minute city project. People won't pay attention to that when we go cows, boom, new world order. Now they're all living in my estate, surveilled, and I take care of the medication, I take care of their housing, you will own nothing and be happy. That's it. And so this is the way, one of the ways in which what average Joe will not do, which is to manifest in eclipse, because let's say usually when we manifest, what do we manifest? Okay, we manifest letting go of, either we manifest, if it's the crescent moon, letting go of struggle, letting go of enemies, letting go of patterns that we've been co-participating in enmities or stuff like that. Or if in crescent moon, growing my crops, growing a relationship, growing a home, finding a new job. Okay, this is what we manifest. Eclipse is not good for this. You understand why? Okay, because you plan something, you want telos. Okay, you want if I plant this, then I nurture this, then this grows. Okay, you want a certain more linear structure of karma. Basically, this is what you do when you manifest. But for the mundane level or the mundane occult, they also use eclipses to increase the chaotic expressions. And so when people like Chris Brennan and Nick Dagan-Best do an episode about eclipses, and they're like, oh my God, eclipses are such events, such pivotal things happen in eclipses. A part of it is astrology being astrology. That being said, the harvesting of the chaotic energy of eclipses can be used on mundane level magically. It's not that we manifest the taking down of this king in the eclipse. Maybe some people do, but that we manifest the chaos, and then on other elections, which are in between eclipses, we do the things, the preparations for what we want to have more linear structure for. And so the eclipses are used to make chaos. Could you harvest this in your own life? I don't know. And again, I'm not, I have been doing things with eclipses as a person. You know, when you study something, then you experience in many things. But I don't have any direct thing to say to you about this. I was exposed to the rays of the eclipse recently, yes, but I can tell you that yes, my life has been more turbulent when I was exposed to the rays of Mars-involved eclipses, or even Mars with the moon or something like that. Yeah, but the reason I'm saying this is not so that you will do it in your life. Maybe you will, maybe you don't. You won't. I don't have a prescription on how to do this because again, it is about throwing chaos, and it is something that you probably would use to masquerade something. Okay, but because it is unpredictable, again, if you see yourself as a vessel and you say, oh, I'm just doing my job, then if you die, you don't consider this a complication. It's like, if I live, I live. If I die, I die. So there is also a certain, by the way, in many hidden occults, I don't know about the Masons, but there are other occults that are religious sects. The way a person would die there is they will have a representative from the occult that will tell them, you will die soon. And then this representative from the occult will basically come and inject this person, okay, maybe put them to sleep and inject this person, and they will die, okay, inject them with poison. There are pros and cons to this. If you think about assisted suicide, some people would kill for an assisted suicide. But it basically means that when it is decided that you are dead, that it is the end of life, somebody will come and terminate your life. A person would do it. Okay, there are pros and cons to that. But if you live in the structure of when it is my time, somebody will put an end to my life, then you are free to manifest chaos because you don't consider the termination of your life, and in some radical cases, perhaps even the process of the termination of your life, you do not consider this a problem. And this is something that I also want you to understand. So I'm not giving you a prescription to start manifesting with eclipses. I'm giving you an understanding that yes, there are people who manifest with eclipses. Those are their reasonings to do that. This is probably how they do it. This is when they would elect something in between eclipses to manifest the linear way and use the eclipses to manifest chaos. This is how we come to watch the astrology podcast talking about just eclipses and their meaning without taking into consideration the various rituals that could be harvesting on this energy. Okay, you could have eclipses and get pregnant. You could have eclipses and divorce and get married. You could have eclipses and nothing happens if it's not on your personal points. Okay, it's not directly affecting you. You could have eclipses and blessed things happen. And yes, it's about fated energy. It's just so. It's the nature of eclipses. Okay? But when we talk about, what mundane events happen during eclipses and how surprising this is, look, when it is a king falling, a king rising, this is sun, it's ruled by the sun. Okay, talk about honoring of the sun, no problem. But when we talk about the breaking of a war, the this, the that, okay, if we take the war and we use it as the card of chaos to hide a new world order, then we understand that this is not just eclipses being eclipses, it's also eclipses harvested as an energy that creates chaos in order to birth a certain plantation, a new world order, growing an A-bomb, 15-minute city. And I also want to bring the intricacy to you that the people who do it, the internal experience is, I am a vessel, I am just doing my job. Okay, so it's not that somebody necessarily has this perception that, of evil. Evil can be very mundane, very day to day. Okay, if you take a look, if you write magnum opus and you read the lectures of the lodges of the Masons, you will see that they were lectured. It doesn't mean that every Mason person believes in that, but they were lectured that some people are not ready to be free. Okay, and there are some people who are not yet ready to be free, and so you could think that putting them in a 15-minute city is taking care of them until they are ready to be free. But what is done if them to be free? Well, they have to be a part of the cult. Okay, sometimes they believed women cannot be free, so women were not accepted to be part of the lodges. Then they had women in the lodges. Okay, and so there is a lot of light where you see dark, and there is a lot of darkness where you see light. And this is the tension that we have now with Sun squaring Pluto. There's always exception to certain rules. Okay? There are magical works done in times of eclipses. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not. Even a great-bodied Caitlin Kopuk, imagine that in the 16 years that she has been conceiving the Thema Mundi work, that the big globe that she saw of a place, I think it was in LA, would later be used for a singer to sing a song about a nature party where people were butchered, raped, and murdered. I don't think that that was the intention of the author. Okay? Will people now look at Thema Mundi and say, oh my God, she is a part of this, she's a this, she's a that? For some of them, is this true to do so? No, there's intricacy. Because the people that are doing that are channeling, they say, I am a vessel. And they care about the sovereignty. You say, I'm a vessel. And you try things and you have unpredictable results. It's the nature of nature when you work with magic. So when you are doing eclipses magic, then you know that there is going to be chaos and you expect the unexpected. And it's not a bug, it's a feature when something goes wrong if you did this kind of ritual. And the reason I'm telling you this is, first of all, so that if you've been seeing unexpected works of magic, you will have the holding of the space to understand that it's not necessarily that this person is doing evil on purpose. Okay, they are doing a certain work, a certain creation, and they have predictable and unpredictable results of those creations, as well as to understand that there are people who are manifesting with eclipses, and this is their reasoning that they would have to do so. Also understanding that those people that we consider evil, they may be thinking of themselves as, I'm a vessel and I'm doing my job. And they are not less concerned about sovereignty than you are. So, and I'm also telling you, because if you study astrology and you look at an episode and you say, oh my God, what eclipses do to the world, it's not just eclipses. It's also harvesting on the energy of chaos to increase it. This also means that on a personal level, you should not necessarily be overly cautious of eclipses or overly scared of eclipses. So we talked about manifesting with eclipses. We talked about viewing Saturn and its easy work that keeps you surviving a world war, not hustle. We've honored Saturn and honored the Sun, and even got to speak about Pluto squaring Sun. Okay, this tension between what Pluto is uncovering and the Sun in Libra, which wants to achieve the acting of balancing, balance. Mercury separating from the square to Pluto, which was ruling the midheaven. And this pertains also to our medicine. People believe that genetic modification of food will solve world hunger, and it was useful for many ways, but it's not necessarily the food that you want to eat for your health. Industrialized farming allowed us to harvest huge plots of land for a little while, but then it ruined the soil. Okay, so the pesticides. And so we can look at the passing of the times and make the necessary changes without judging. Because everybody has had their reasons. Some people believe that if they will sacrifice some children, forgetting the little details that they are raped and murdered, they will have fertility of the land for the world. And if we say, even I think Stalin it was that said there will be 100,000 deaths to save millions. It's a belief. So everybody has their reasoning. And that we have points of interference. First of all, being aware. Eclipses are not necessarily something to be feared. People who harvest on eclipse to create chaos are not necessarily something to be feared. Being aware of the elections that happen in between eclipses, like giving a mandate to the WHO to literally rule the world, is nothing that we must be overly fearing if we understand it. And if we are too caught up in the conflict, in fighting each other, there are only losers to a war, which is also Masonic if you look at the chess game, okay? Which is a very Aries card, is the notion that war is, the people are only losing in war. Okay, so this realization, this Masonic teaching, okay, is not evil. War brings only death. It's not evil. Okay, to manifest the chaos that creates these wars so that people will understand is taking it a step forward. But we also need to understand that even this is done in cycles, and this one is done with Aries on Rahu on the eclipse cycle. Aries is the 500 years planet. It takes 500 years for Aries to be where it was. And so, rethinking a notion of labor, agriculture, can be a point of interference. Also looking at the entire ecosystem, and I want to tell you, I recently looked at, how is the Hiroshima, how is Nagasaki right now, and how is Chernobyl. Chernobyl is a blooming forest with ecosystem, and I spoke about this, and you can see, you can look it up. And I look at this and I say, what do I care as a human being? What do I care as a human being? If all this beauty is growing and I'm no longer of the living, what I care is that the passage from one state of existence to another will be at ease. If all this beauty will flourish, let's say they nuke Israel, okay? If I evaporate without feeling it and people won't suffer and there will be blooming forests and life and oxygen on earth, then life go on. It's a kind of a legacy. I want to live. I want to be a part of life. Okay? And so for the passage between the existing states to be easy. And looking at it, looking at what happens in Chernobyl right now, and saying, oh, we look at it as a nuclear disaster, but this also saves our planet, is another point of view. Especially now that I currently don't know, maybe I am too blind to see a place to go to where I have some family here and I have some pets here and I have a turtle here. And we are at the brinks of nuclear fields all around the country. It's not just Dimona, it's all around. So you pray that if God forbid something happens, you're close enough to just evaporate. And you don't really have place to leave that, or to and you care for your turtle, and you grow your garlic, and you do what you do, and you hope for good. And also, we don't know how many more nuclear plants are on Earth. And I recently thought about this, like, it's kind of like part of my guidance, or whatever it is that I'm sometimes channeling, said, is there a place on Earth that we know for sure is not in the scope of like a nuclear star? It's like, right now, no. Right now, no. Okay. So the Earth will recover. The Earth, we're not worried for the Earth. The Earth, something grows here. I did not, when I said for a couple of months ago, I said even in nuclear disasters, things grow. I say it's just not us that can grow there, but things grow. I did not imagine what I saw in Chernobyl. I did not imagine. Things grow. You would think about, dogs with 4 legs, or you wouldn't think about nature blooming, growing, extinct species coming back to life. You wouldn't think about that. I was like, okay, I see that, and I'm humbled, and I'm like, okay, all I ask is for the passage from this existence to that existence to be easy. Okay. So, of course, I love life. But if I know that when I perish, all this beauty grows, then it's a part of the cycle. I'm very thankful for the time that I have on this earth. And when I die, there'll be other species that have time on this earth and grow in life. And I just want good for me and good for them. That being said, there is value in denuclearification. There is value also in not growing nuclears, because in the beginning it is an ecological disaster. Okay, so there is value in keeping a nuclear war at bay. And there is value in growing forests, and there is value in permaculture, and there is value in seeing that this crisis is kind of like, whoever you are, from whatever nation state or bloodline or whatnot you are, eventually we are all people. And when we are actually having the intimacy, that we take care that everybody enjoy the time it takes, and the passage of the time, and the joy of the process, we're not overpopulating as much as we thought. It's not that disaster. We're not that much of a disaster either. Okay, if we live good, we don't work too hard, and we take the time with our, when we make love, and we take the time that everybody is enjoying this, and have a conversation, have celebrations, then we're not that much of a disaster. We are even good for the ecosystem. When it's our time, we are also nourishing the soil. So we're not that much of a disaster that we thought. Even if we do nuclear holocaust, the growing extinct species are growing. It's like, we're really not as harmful as we thought we are. So there's no reason for us not to stay as humanity. Yes, what did I name this episode? Talked about manifesting in chaos. It saved my grandfather. That was actually easy work. And all these insights that you get from amidst a nuclear plantation. So maybe I should change my podcast to I don't know, the voice of peace from a nuclear plantation, or something like that. So this is what I had to say, and I hope that you are not too afraid of eclipses. Set intentions to do things, set intentions accordingly, and you'll see that whether it's your worldview that changes, or the surroundings that change, or opportunities that opened up to you that you didn't conceive, or discoveries that you make, we are still living every day. Everything is new under the sun. That's what I want to say to you. Everything is new. There are cycles, absolutely. Everything is new. Nothing is new under the sun. And everything is new under the sun. And every day you have a new perspective. And there is a point to go on living. And solutions find their ways to you when it's time. And unfortunately, don't find their ways to you when also, which is annoying. But yes, so may peace be unto you. Assalamu alaikum. God bless. Bye-bye.